Game of Thrones made it clear that any character could die at any time, but some deaths had far more meaning than others. For nearly a decade, HBO's Game of Thrones was partly well known for its ruthless character deaths of heroes, villains, and everyone in between. Much like author George R.R. Martin's source material, many of these deaths are depicted as shocking. However, they also often echo something ironic and darkly poetic from a previous story event. Hello everyone, if you are new here, please don't forget to subscribe and click the notifications bell, so you don't miss any new updates on your favorite TV series. These plot points are both clever callbacks to earlier episodes or seasons, but they also serve to conclude or mark a milestone in a given character arc. From the handful of dramatic deaths that occurred during the Red Wedding, and the ones that stemmed from it to Daenerys Targaryen's demise, Game of Thrones often wore irony on its sleeve. Number 5. Egret is killed in battle by Olly the same way she killed his father. The romance between Egret of the Free Folk and the brooding Jon Snow was among Game of Thrones' best romances, making her untimely death much more grueling. After Jon is kidnapped and later gains the trust of the Free Folk, he eventually breaks away to tread along his path to fight for the greater good, against the impending White Walkers. This leads Egret to join the assault on Castle Black in retaliation, killing Olly's father in a village raid by shooting him with an arrow. However, in the chaotic battle of Castle Black when Jon is at Egret's mercy, Olly breaks the tension by killing her with an arrow. This was one of the many examples of Game of Thrones' bitter karma at work. Number 4. Roose Bolton is stabbed through the heart as he did to Robb Stark. Roose Bolton was one of Robb Stark's allies early in the War of the Five Kings, but Lord Roose Bolton eventually showed that his loyalties are only to power and can't, therefore, be bought. Having quietly lost faith in the King of the North's judgment in the war, he secretly allied with the conniving Freys and Lannisters to murder Robb, his mother Catelyn, his wife Talisa, and all his allies. Roose Bolton assassinated Robb himself, driving a dagger through his chest. This allowed him to consolidate power as the new Warden of the North, but he would meet a similar fate at his legitimized bastard son's hand, Ramsay Bolton. With Ramsay's disturbing taste for political power growing insatiable, this culminated in him stabbing his father through the chest. Number 3. Ned Stark's unjust execution was carried out by his sword. The Honorable Warden of the North, Eddard Ned Stark, quickly became a fan-favorite Game of Thrones character. He was the rare example of a sincerely heroic figure in this punishing world, even if he was also noble to a fault. The end of Season 1 was the series' major wake-up call for audiences, telling them no one is safe and that very little that happens is fair. Ned's unjust execution by the illegitimate King Joffrey's order was the season's most shocking moment, and he was cruelly beheaded by his own greatsword, Ice. It's the same sword Ned used in Season 1, Episode 1 to, ironically enough, also unfairly, execute a Night's Watch deserter for fleeing from White Walkers that nearly the rest of the world didn't believe existed. Number 2. Littlefinger was executed with the same dagger he threatened Ned with. Lord Peter Baelish, best known for his nickname Littlefinger and former Master of Coin in King's Landing, was among Game of Thrones' most cunning villains. While he held lofty ambitions, he was only on his own side, mostly operating in the shadows. Littlefinger was famously untrustworthy, and after fooling Ned and Catelyn Stark, he promptly betrayed the former and led to his imprisonment. Peter held Ned at knife point, but seasons later, the former found himself assassinated with the same dagger. In a failed plot to turn Sansa and Arya Stark against each other in Winterfell, the pair surprise him by summoning him to his execution, where Arya slits Peter's throat with it. After several seasons of Littlefinger's twisted manipulations, it was satisfying to see him ironically outsmarted by Sansa. Number 1. Joffrey Baratheon dies in the Purple Wedding after mocking the Red Wedding. Joffrey Baratheon's death was not only one of the most deserved and ironic deaths that spun out of the dreaded Red Wedding, but one of the most in all of Game of Thrones. The biological son of the incestuous relationship between Cersei and Jaime Lannister, Joffrey was someone who reveled in cruelty. He tortured Sansa Stark as his wife and made the order to execute her father. But when Joffrey remarries with Margaery Tyrell and holds an extravagant feast to celebrate both it and Robb's murder, irony comes back to haunt him when he's poisoned, dying in his similarly villainous mother's arms. In his arrogance in celebrating the horrors of the Red Wedding, part of his grim legacy becomes his death in the Purple Wedding. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like this video and drop comments. And most importantly, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss anything.